Hello and welcome to Without Warning. I'm your host, Alex Wathy, with Alex Antoniadis and Ryan McMahon. And we got a big slate of stuff to talk about. Round 2 starting up quite soon, within 24 hours of this recording. Might have already, well, it's probably going to be less by the time you are viewing this episode.
The Leafs are in it.
The Leafs are in round 2. Who would have thought? Florida 2. Who would have thought?
Oh my
Seattle
God.
2.
Wow.
My bracket's looking good.
My
For
bracket
2 of those.
is busted.
My bracket is
East.
destroyed.
I think most
Absolutely
people's
destroyed.
brackets are destroyed after that first round. I'm surprised mine is in as good shape as it is.
I'm looking good on the West. You know, my cup pick could still be correct. I didn't take Boston to win the cup, so but we'll get into that a little later. Got a lot to talk about. I think first though, we got to talk about the Leafs because
Holy
they
shit.
finally did it. They finally
Holy shit.
did it.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I know.
We can swear now. We're not on Spirit Live.
This is crazy, man.
Finally.
Jeez.
It was,
okay, I
it was
feel like
intense.
we should go through just our experiences watching that game first.
I'm trying to remember what day was that again.
Yeah, it was 2 days ago. It was Saturday night.
Saturday
night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Saturday night, I had a raging hangover, and I watched the game with little hope.
Yeah.
You know, I saw the Matthews goal, and the Matthews goal, I basically just sat in silence the entire game, just really anxious.
Yeah.
I watched Matthews score, and I'm like, all right, this is good. I saw Stamkos score, and when Stamkos scored the 1-1 goal, my heart dropped.
It was like such a
was-
familiar feeling.
It was a knife through the heart. It was like, oof, right? And then, goes to overtime, and the second it hit overtime, I actually got a little confident because the Leafs have been very good in overtime. You know, their play in one of the overtimes, I believe game 3 wasn't great, but the game 4 overtime and game 6 overtime, they attacked.
Although, this game 6, that Tavares goal, that was their only shot of overtime.
Yeah, those shots were 1 apiece.
Yeah. I don't even remember the Tampa shot. Yeah, I mean, for me in this game, like just reflecting on the whole experience of this series. By the way, if the video is posted, if you're wondering why I'm looking to my right so much, it's because I have the Rangers Devils game 7 on. So just a side note there. But yeah, just reflecting on the experience of this series and really just the past few round ones for the Leafs, I've sort of realized this has not been enjoyable at all. Watching this series was a horrible experience, just emotionally for me.
It was gut wrenching.
It was just anxiety,
And
except for game 2.
Yes,
I would say like every game was just holy shit. What I can't do this.
After
anymore.
game 1, I bet 50% of Leaf fans just stopped talking.
Yeah, like why
scared.
wouldn't you? Like it's hard. Like if you're a normal person, you probably would have quit like 5 years ago. Like after 2018.
I'd say after the Columbus series.
Yeah, after
Columbus
the Columbus,
series for
that's
sure.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if the Columbus series didn't do that to you, the Montreal series should have. Because that was worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was working that day, so I basically missed the first period, but I had the game recorded at home, so I came home and I turned the game on from the beginning. So I was behind and I had no idea what was happening. So I watched the whole game from there. You know, skipping commercials, intermissions, all that stuff. So I didn't even get breaks. I just had to like live through this anxiety constantly for 2-3 hours.
But that's good because you kept your phone off to the side too, right?
Yeah.
Complete
Like I turned
shutdown.
my phone. I turned my phone off. I was just laser focused. And
Good.
watching the game, I'm like, okay. After the first, I felt like, okay, they definitely look much better than they did in the other 2 games in Tampa. Because those other 2 games in Tampa, they weren't good. Like I think we can agree there. They did come out with the wins and they had a lot of fight in them, but they were not great. They were not the better team for sure. In this one, there were times when they actually did look like the better team. And in the second, Austin Matthews showed why he is the best player on this team. I think like that shift was like a moment where he went, fuck you, we're winning. We're winning. We're scoring on this shift no matter what. He had like a great chance on a pass from Marner that Vasilevsky made a great save on. And then the one timer on the pass from Brody that goes in. Yeah, I like, unlike you, Alex, I was not silent. I lost my mind when that puck went in. I was silent like the rest of the game. Sorry, not my mic. But like when they do score, I can't hold it in. Like I need to let it out. Otherwise, I think I'd suffocate and die. So yeah. And then Stamkos obviously scores. I don't even react because I almost expected it. I was like, they're not gonna win 1-0. Like,
You're waiting
and
for it.
Samsonov, I feel like we should give props to Ilya Samsonov as well. He saved his best game of the series
Oh yeah.
for the most important one. And holy crap. It goes to overtime. I'm sitting, and at this point, I go upstairs. I'm sitting at the dinner table with my parents, and we're like watching on an iPad. I'm just sitting there with like my hands on my head, and the Tavares goal. I honestly think I think I blacked out when it went in, because it went in. I left my seat. I went ballistic, and then after like I came down, I was like, who scored? I couldn't even remember how the play happened. I just remember seeing the puck cross the line, and then I found out it was Tavares who scored. And I mean, now I've watched the goal about 6 dozen times since it happened. So yeah, that was a hell of an experience. And the vibe on Twitter I've been getting is now we can actually enjoy this.
Yeah, like I fully expect the Leafs to beat the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Can't discredit the Florida Panthers either. We'll get into that a little later.
Yeah.
But I think like a feeling of confidence and relief is kind of just surging through the
Yes.
Toronto Maple Leafs fan base right now.
100%.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of the players said and how they should be feeling is this feels great to finally do it, but the job's not close to done.
Yeah.
Step 1 of 4, right? I think that's what Matthews said after the game in what was a very, I think, calm interview where he was just like very professional and like, yeah, like this is great, but job's not done. And he probably had my favorite reaction on the bench after the game, where he like just rose his hands. He like looked into the sky and was like, thank you for finally letting us do this. God, I think he was the last player off the bench when Tavares scored that goal. You can tell I've watched the replay a lot since it happened. But
you know, and the Toronto Maple Leafs and Austin Matthews can keep the professionalism to the media and to the fans, but the reports of cases upon cases of Bud Light entering Toronto Maple Leafs locker room in Amalie Arena speak a whole different story to how they reacted to that win, and I love that.
Yeah, and
enjoy yourself. You know, take a day off, take that hungover day off in Florida. You know, probably some nice weather down there. I don't know how it's like in Toronto right now, but I assume Florida's better than
it has not been good in Toronto the last few days.
Yeah. Probably much better in Florida.
I would enjoy that day. Today they better have been training, getting ready, and then hopefully they come out strong.
It's you got to be like Carey Price, you know, in that Stanley Cup series with Tampa, where everybody else was cheering. Carey Price is like, we're not done. We're not done.
That's exactly the attitude you have to have. And man, I feel like we should just end on like summarizing this series. Who are the best performers? Like who are your 3 stars, I think, for the Leafs in this series?
Okay, I'd say my 3 stars. I think my 3rd star is Luke Shen.
Yeah.
Analytically,
yes.
I believe they're best defensemen, if not top 2. I understand Brody and Jake McCabe are getting tough pairings, so obviously they're Corsi, they're Fenwick, all of that might be a little lower.
Yeah.
But Luke Shen still is out there in tough minutes. He hit. I believe he had a couple points. I assume he did. There's a few high-scoring games.
Just a side note on Shen, it is still just a fever dream that he is on this team when they finally win around.
You know,
Like
and
even when I see him in the uniform, I'm like, oh my God, he's here.
yeah, and
Again.
I'm very happy about the trade. You know, I'm
And he's
happy it
not playing
happened.
on a pair with I don't even know, Jeff Finger. Like I'm trying to think of like Leafs defensemen from that era, Brett Lebda or
Like,
something.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Gosh.
yeah, and then, you know, I'd say Luke Shen. I think second has to be Ilya Samsonov.
Mm-hmm. Probably the best sub 900 series you would ever see from a
Yeah, I mean,
goaltender.
Ilya Samsonov gave you the Grant Fuhr treatment in the Toronto Maple Leafs win. He will give up some goals in the first and second period, but when you needed a save, he'll give you a save.
Yeah.
He had some fantastic saves in game 6. He gave them a chance to win in game 5. You don't need to get into games 3 and 4 because obviously you don't win that game without Ilya Samsonov, even though he gave up 3 and 4 goals respectively. You know, Ilya Samsonov was great. I'd say if it wasn't for Austin Matthews kind of taking over games, he would have been my number 1 star. But my number 1 star is Austin Matthews. You know, had the big goal in game 6. He had a big goal in game 5. Unfortunately, that goal fell flat, you know, in the final few minutes when they were trying to make a comeback. They had those 2 goals in game 4. And Austin Matthews, best player on the team. He showed why. And, you know, I think of every Leaf, I think he's the one that really got the monkey off his back. Nylander shows up in big games. I'm not saying Matt Marner and Matthews don't, but they kind of have that reputation.
Marner had 11 points in this series.
Yeah.
Marner had probably
crazy.
the quietest 11 points I think I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
that's not taking anything away from him, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of those came from that game to win. I think he had 4 points that night.
I know when he was on the ice, the Leafs like expected goals was off the charts.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it was good. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I had to pick my 3 stars, I would say my 3rd star would be Ilya Samsonov. Like, I mean, we already touched on this, but you don't win games 3 and 4 without him. And the best part for him, something that I think is very different from the performances we have gotten from Toronto goalies in the past, I'm looking at you, Freddie Anderson, was in the weirdly, which is weird because he actually just won an elimination game, but Samsonov saved his best game for the elimination game in game 6.
He did, because
I know he didn't win in game 5, and he allowed his worst goal in game 5. That goal from Asamont. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But in game 6, makes some huge saves early on. The Leafs get caved in a few times. And just battles, hangs in there, and only gives up 1. Outduels Vasilevsky in the 6 games for sure. Was by far the better goaltender overall. So yeah, I have to give him the 3rd star. 2nd star, I think I'll go Matthews for the 2nd star. And I think, again, we touched on this, but he just showed his ability to take over a game. And in game 6, holy crap, he was unbelievable. Every loose puck he was getting to, every puck battle, he was coming out with that puck. And I have not been able to stop thinking about that shift where he scored that goal. He probably had 3 or 4 chances. TJ Brody with a massive keep, gives the puck to him, he scores, and man, like he deserved to finally have the Leafs go to the next round. And my 1st star, I'm a little surprised this wasn't on your list, Alex, but Morgan Rielly.
I forgot about Morgan Rielly.
Yeah, I almost
really
did
forgot
too
about
for a
Morgan
second.
Mm-hmm.
You could say the Rielly Shen pair together even, but Morgan Rielly might have just had the most irrelevant regular season we've ever seen. Like where he really struggled at times. He dealt with injuries defensively, bit of a liability at times. And, you know, the discourse on Twitter, like it drove me crazy sometimes because I was like, guys, this happens every year where Morgan Rielly has a rough stretch. People are like, oh, he's awful. Put him on the 3rd pair. Trade that contract away. Oh my God, what are they doing? And then he goes in the playoffs and he's the best player every year. You like
I think Nylander will fight you on some years, but
Nylander.
other than that,
I think I've said before, Nylander has been this team's most consistent performer in the playoffs. Oddly, I think he had an up and down series, but that's
I
besides.
wasn't the biggest fan of Nylander this series.
Yeah,
but I think
but
that's because everyone else just outperformed him.
yeah, but that's besides the point. For me, Riley, you can say I think he's shown up so much in these games, in these playoff series. And, the narrative about the Leaf Stars not showing up in the playoffs, that doesn't apply to Riley really in any of the years. To me, he has been unbelievable. And in this series, it was probably the best playoff series by a Leaf I have seen in my lifetime. I was alive for, the early 2000s, but I was an infant. So doesn't really count in my eyes.
Doesn't really count.
No. I was 3 when they beat the Senators. So yeah, Morgan Riley would be my first star.
Yeah, if I had to pick, like, no particular order, Matthews is definitely up there. And I was thinking between, like you were saying, Ryan, Morgan Riley or Mitch Marner, but I got to give it to Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
And Samsonov, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Best
I feel like we have a bit of a consensus. I also want to give something that I think is underrated was while Brody and McCabe might not have had the best series in terms of maybe their possession numbers or expected goals, they completely shut down that top line, that Braden Point line. Like really all the damage the Leafs had to deal with was from the middle six, bottom six. The Sorelli line ate them up the entire series. Like that fourth line even at times was a handful. But that McCabe and Brody pair, especially in game 6, was unbelievable.
And you're not going to McCabe Brody for offense.
No.
McCabe and Brody aren't known for their offense. Like they'll give you the odd point, the odd goal. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should expect.
I mean, Brody set up the Matthews goal in game 6.
Exactly. Like you shouldn't expect Luke Schenn offensive numbers from a TJ Brody or Jake McCabe. But Jake McCabe was brought in. TJ Brody was signed to shut down the other team's best players, let Morgan Riley play his offensive dynamo role.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got him a little bit of an anchor in Luke Schenn to help him out with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working out great right now. The Leafs got to deal with Matthew Tkachuk. I'm sure Luke Schenn is going to love dealing with Matthew Tkachuk in front of the net.
It's going to be really fun to watch.
But TJ Brody and Jake McCabe did their job. And yeah, it was a good series. And I think that's a good segue, unless anyone else has anything to say, into the Florida-Toronto second-round series.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to touch on Boston, Florida first?
I think we should. For a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Florida Panthers just did the funniest thing that none of us thought would happen. Like when I saw Florida win game 2, when they scored, I want to say they scored 4 in the third on Boston. They basically did to Boston what Boston has been doing to other teams in the third period all year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they won?
And the thing with the Florida Panthers is, I think I had Boston in 5. I had the Boston Bruins being the Florida Panthers in 5 games. In my bracket. I was very wrong.
Yeah.
Florida coming into the playoffs was, I believe, a top 4 hottest team with the hottest offense.
Yeah. There was a certain point in the year where I was like, oh my God, they're not going to make it.
Yeah. And the only reason why I didn't pick them to be more of a competition for the Bruins is that while Florida was hot, Boston was hotter, better offense. My goodness, much better defense.
Yes.
Should get better goaltending. So Florida was basically doing everything, clicking everything at the right time, and then Boston was just doing it much better. But I saw some advanced analytics. Boston Bruins were very lucky this year. They had an insane expected goals.
They were even taking that into account, they were still great.
They were still great, but their even strength numbers were definitely quite luck based. They're still great. They still have a fantastic team. They still should have finished first. Should they've been a 65-win team? You know, a little bit of luck happens, but sports is all about luck. You don't win without luck.
I mean, the Leafs just proved that.
Exactly. And then suddenly their 5v5 luck dried up. Florida was getting the bounces, and then all of a sudden you have Florida moving on. And I think the big thing is Boston. A, Boston lost because their luck dried up, and B, they were playing Olmark while he was injured in game 5 and 6.
That is inexcusable.
When you are up 3-1 in a series and you have a tandem, and it's not like a tandem where it's Andre Vasilevsky and who's Tampa Bay's backup? Brian Elliott. It's not a situation where you have Andre Vasilevsky and Brian Elliott. It's Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. Linus Ullmark's probably the Vezina winner.
Yeah.
Jeremy Swayman almost played as many games and it was quite good.
He was very good. And he was good in game 7 too.
He was good. He was good. You know, like Jeremy Swayman isn't the reason they would have won that game, but he's not the reason they lost. He did his part. He gave his team a chance to win. And when you're in game 5, you have a 3-1 cushion and your goalie is dealing with something, throw him in. If Jeremy Swayman has a bad game, if Ullmark's injured, fair enough. If you still want to go with him, it's like, all right, Swayman had the bad game. Ullmark's a little banged up, but he got us here. Fair enough. You do not put in Jeremy Swayman in game 7 because you wore down your starting Vezina winning goaltender.
Why does it feel like teams are doing this every year now? Like last year, if you remember the Penguins-Rangers series, the Penguins played Tristan Jarry in one game, game 7, and they lost.
Pittsburgh Penguins should have won that series last year.
Oh, they absolutely should have. And the Bruins should have won this series. They had it like they dominated Florida in games 3 and 4 away from home. And I saw that and was like, it's done. Like if you're losing like that at home, I just don't see a world where you're gonna win 3 in a row. Did the Bruins even lose 3 in a row this year? I don't think they did. I really doubt it. From what I know, please correct me if I'm wrong. But
I know they had a weird like 5-game meh thing, but I think their meh was like 2-2-1 or something like that.
Which is like, my God,
really good.
And in a season where you would think Jim Montgomery was probably going to be the favorite for the Jack Adams. Just absolutely mind-boggling decision-making in this series. Like when it comes to, specifically with the goaltending choices. I don't know how you don't go to Swayman earlier, because I think if you do, you win that series.
Yeah.
Maybe in 5.
And on the other end of the ice, Paul Maurice, he recognized that Alex Lyon wasn't playing as well. He went to Sergei Bobrovsky. And Sergei Bobrovsky, growing up, he was my favorite goaltender in the NHL. And Sergei Bobrovsky is a Titan killer. 2019, Columbus, Tampa Bay. 2023, Florida, Boston. Sergei Bobrovsky is the most perplexing goaltender, I think, in the NHL. Because one season he gives you a Vezina candidate type performance. The other season, he gets relegated to the third option. And, you know, growing up, I got to see him when he actually could put together 2 straight Vezina caliber seasons on Columbus. And then now he is, I'd say, a big part of the reason why Florida is currently in the second round. He's part of the reason why I'm a little scared about the Leafs' chances against Florida. But my goodness, did he give me... I think I was more happy about Boston losing than Toronto winning. I'm not going to lie. I reacted... I was saying how in Toronto, the Toronto series, at least my reaction. In the Toronto series, I was super silent. Even when the game winner went in, I was silent. My dad next to me was freaking out. I was just like, yes, okay, thank God this is over. In the Florida-Boston series, I was ecstatic. Because I was like...
I had a big reaction when Montour scored the tying goal. Brandon Montour, by the way. Holy crap, what a series he had. Unbelievable. Breakout season he's had overall. But yeah, I mean, there was a point this season where I was like, is Paul Maurice just a bad coach? I had those thoughts at one point. Because Florida, I mean, you took this roster. I know they lost Huberdeau and Weegar in the offseason, but they got Matthew Tkachuk, who I know he's not going to win the Hart Trophy, but he'll be in the conversation for sure.
He should finish third, I'd say, behind Pasternak and McDavid.
I think there's an argument for him finishing second, even.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
I'm just thinking based. Like I would give my heart ballot would be McDavid because it has to be
mhm.
Kachuk and Hughes. Jack Hughes.
Hughes, yeah, Hughes. But yeah, I mean, Florida, what an unbelievable effort by them. And I think what they did in this series was they were opportunistic. Like, because the Bruins did something that was extremely uncharacteristic of them, and that was they made a lot of mistakes in the defensive zone. So many turnovers, so many giveaways. And the Allmark giveaway in game 5. I don't know if you remember that game. Marchand had a breakaway in the last 5 seconds of the third, which Bobrovsky stopped. That was a game. That was the game where Boston like doubled Florida in shots, and Florida was able to pull it out in overtime. With that Kachuk winner on the Allmark giveaway. And game 7, I mean, Kachuk had the breakaway right at the beginning of overtime. Just so many like lapses in judgment for the Bruins, and it's just crazy.
Mhm.
I'm still kind of in disbelief. Florida
Yeah.
was able to pull
Yeah.
that out, and I think it just goes to show like you just need to get into the playoffs, and you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
It's a completely different sport in the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
completely different.
And then now that brings us to Florida Toronto. Second round series. I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs have no excuse to lose this series.
Yeah.
Now, listen, we cannot disregard as what we've just been talking about. We cannot disregard what the Florida Panthers just did. They just knocked off the 65-win President's Trophy winning Boston
Mhm.
Bruins in 7 games, coming back 3-1. That's historic in its own right. But as the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're going up against a team who have 2 superstars in Barkov and Kachuk. You have your 2 superstars. I'd argue the Leafs have much better defense. I don't know if they have necessarily a game breaker as much as Brandon Montour, but Morgan Riley is playing like that game breaker. As Ryan, you love Morgan Riley, especially in the series, and I do too.
Yeah.
But goaltending, Samsonov has been consistently reliable. He'll give
Mhm.
up 3 goals, 4 goals. Hell, he'll give up 5. He will not give up that last goal. And you have a situation where if Bobrovsky has a bad game 1, there's goalie questions in Florida. There's goalie questions
Yeah.
in Sunrise.
The leash is going to be short on
Mm-hmm.
Bobrovsky, I would think. It's funny, even in that game 7 that the Panthers won, that Pasternak goal that gave Boston the lead,
He barely
like
moved
on
though.
a massive rebound, like he kicked it.
Mhm.
It was like the best assist of the game.
And he didn't move on the cross. He pretty much just stood there. He gave up the
Yeah.
rebound. And he was like,
It was like
Something
it
that's
was like a wide open net.
Yeah, it was crazy. And something that's odd about Bobrovsky for me, when I watch him, I'm like, he makes himself look so small in the net, I find.
Mhm.
And look, I'm not a goalie coach, so I'm not going to say I understand exactly why he positions himself the way he does, but like when Pasternak scored that insane between the legs goal in game 6, if you remember, like I swear, but Bobrovsky, he was like flat on the ice almost. He was hunched down so far, like the whole top half of the net was open. Like you had to think like Pasternak was going to flip a puck up there. So yeah, I mean, we know the capability of Bobrovsky. We know what he can do, but I can't say I'm overly scared of him heading into this series.
I'm a little scared of Bobrovsky only because of what he can be.
Yeah.
Bobrovsky can be a series winning Vezina candidate goaltender who can just say, screw you, I'm winning this.
Yeah.
But I feel like he just did that with the Bruins.
Mm.
And I don't think his ceiling's as high as a 2021 Carey Price, who kind of just Carey Price didn't carry the Montreal Canadiens to that Stanley Cup
I mean,
finals, but
yeah.
it's like 60% of that run.
If
was
it
Carey
wasn't for
Price.
him, they
Yes,
wouldn't have
yes.
even gotten through Toronto.
Definitely.
Exactly, right? Like
Definitely.
I don't want to discredit the Montreal Canadiens run, but
Mhm.
right.
They definitely relied on Carey Price.
And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? That's not a bad thing. You have Carey
Yeah.
Price.
Yeah.
But looking at this series, I'm only scared of Bobrovsky, and Kachuk is a man on a mission. He's scary. The Leafs have the fortitude and meanness and toughness now. Not as mean and tough as the Florida Panthers, but they have the meanness and toughness to compete in that department.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers are very analytically designed, despite their coach not being it. That's still very confusing to me because Florida has all these pieces like Carter Hagee, Brandon Montour, where you look at them and you're like, those aren't big names, and they do big things. But the Leafs should win this. I don't know if it's bold of me to say in 5, but this should be a 5-game series. I'm saying 6.
Mhm.
I think the Leafs should win in 6, but as we know, what should happen doesn't happen. So my prediction is Leafs in 6, but like if Florida walks away and wins this series, I'm not totally shocked.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this series and you look at like what happened in the regular season, because the Leafs had a couple there were a couple of pretty entertaining games between the Panthers and the Leafs this season. The Leafs overall went 3-0-1 against the Panthers this year. 3 of those games went to overtime. And one theme I found in this game, and one theme with Paul Maurice as a coach and teams that he's coached, is Panthers get penalized a lot. 4 straight penalties against the Panthers in Game 7 against the Bruins. That never happens. That never, ever, ever happens. Because, and Paul Maurice has talked about this in press conferences, where he simply does not have a very good relationship with some NHL officials. He has literally publicly stated that. And I think that's going to be a factor in this series. I think a lot of this is going to come down to special teams, and if the Leafs are going to be able to execute on their power play. I don't know if you remember, there was that game that went to overtime back in January where I want to say the Leafs had got like 9 power plays or something crazy like that. The Panthers just could not stop taking penalties.
I mean, as much as Paul Maurice has a bad relationship with NHL referees, you also have to realize that Matthew Tkachuk, Radko Gudas, they're not necessarily Mitch Marners in terms of player type, or they don't really take penalties.
Both those players do take a lot of penalties.
And then there's much more there's the Mark Stalls, the Eric Stalls. You got guys that like to take penalties
and are scared of rainbow flags.
Very true.
But I digress.
Even the way that Toronto was playing in the Tampa series, like they were playing tough.
They're playing tough, but take out Michael Bunting from this equation. They were not taking dumb penalties.
Yeah.
No, I thought Jake McCabe had a couple instances where he delivered one check too many after the whistle and he got a penalty for it.
But this is his first playoff. That was his first playoff series.
Yeah. I
expect Jake McCabe to understand what's a penalty in the playoffs.
McCabe was going at guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had some big hits in this series.
There are multiple hits by Jake McCabe where I'm like, that could be a penalty. And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I guess I'm just not used to seeing big hits from a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah, it's
refreshing.
Yeah. We haven't really had many defensemen like that since the Phaneuf days.
And now we got Shen McCabe.
Yeah, Shen McCabe. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a series where the Leafs are obviously the clear favorites. I wasn't going to point this out, but the Leafs are technically the cup favorites right now. I don't think that should be surprising to anybody.
Betting wise, it's the Maple Leafs, and and advanced analytically wise, it's Edmonton.
Okay,
but like the Leafs are the favorite to come out the East. Like the favorite from everyone is Edmonton, Toronto, Stanley Cup Finals.
I am begging for that.
And my thing is, I really want to see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
If Toronto loses to Florida, I am an Edmonton fan. Putting it out there.
Same here, probably. Yeah.
But if a Canadian team wins the Stanley Cup at the cost of the Toronto Maple Leafs losing in the Stanley Cup Final, I think that Stanley Cup will be tainted for me.
It will tear the country apart. It'll be incredible, but let's not dive into that too much right now because it's just a dream at this point. But yeah, I mean, my prediction would be Leafs in 6 as well. You have the Panthers, they're riding high right now.
So are the Leafs.
I think if you're the Leafs, what you really need to look to do early in this series is make a statement to the rest of the league.
Sasha Barkov's gonna tear you apart defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Tkachuk is just gonna be the thorn in your side the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to let those two players do their thing to neutralize the Montours, the Verhaeghes, the Reinhardts, the Bennetts, I'd say do it.
I think if you're the
But-
Leafs, I think if you're the Leafs in these first two games, something they have not done in the Matthews era is take a 2-0 series lead. And I think you have a city who is behind you to the fullest extent. You're going to
100%.
have probably the loudest building you've ever heard in your
Oh, yeah.
life in games 1 and 2 after they've finally won a series. You
God, I
have
wish
that
I was in
behind you.
Toronto.
If you can take that energy and win those first two games,
Mm-hmm.
then I think we have cup aspirations.
I kind of like what you guys
that
were
point.
saying, where they need to have like a big game. I feel like if they
Game
get like
2 was a statement game.
yes,
especially
they need one of
considering
those.
sorry to interrupt you, Alex, but
Hmm.
especially considering in the series against Tampa, there weren't very many stretches where the Leafs dominated play, where the Leafs were clearly the better team. And I think this series, you really want to see that from them.
It's gonna be interesting. But there are 3 other series on the table as well. And Seattle, Dallas. We're all good. We're all good to move on. I feel like that was a good transition. But just making sure.
Yeah.
Seattle, Dallas. I was talking
Damn.
to one of my buddies. If Seattle goes to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think we're probably going down to a game.
Nice.
Yeah,
And if
you
he
got it.
bails on me.
Nice.
Like if it's Seattle, Toronto, we're going 100%. If it's Seattle versus X team, I'm probably going down with my girlfriend and I'll just go to the game by myself. But regardless, I'm we'll see what financials are like because that's very expensive. And let's be honest, financials will probably be like, screw you, you're not doing that.
Mm.
If everything goes right, I'll Seattle somehow beats Dallas and then beats Vegas or Edmonton. But anyway, Seattle.
If you do, give me a t-shirt.
Sounds good.
All right.
Seattle, Dallas. I have the Dallas Stars beating the Seattle Kraken in 6 games.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discredit Seattle. I had Seattle losing in 6 in the previous series. I was very close to taking Colorado to lose that series, but I was like, let's play it safe.
Yeah.
You never played safe in the NHL playoffs. That's dumb. And I'm just taking Dallas because Dallas is my cup pick. It was my cup pick back in January. Dallas was my cup pick back in January, if you don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been my cup pick probably at the start of the season, but I had Calgary, and then we don't need to talk about that. But Dallas is my cup pick for a while. I'm going to stick to it. They're without Joe Pavelski. Hopefully he comes back, but we'll see. But the thing is, the Dallas Stars actually have depth to match Seattle Kraken. They have a goaltender who can just turn it on and take over a series in Jake Ottinger. They have a stud of a defenseman in Miro Heiskanen. And you have a probable Hart candidate in Jason Robertson. The Dallas Stars are basically just what's the thing in the boys where they inject it into you? They're basically just like a supercharged Seattle Kraken.
Yeah.
That's how I view the Dallas Stars. Now, when they face Edmonton, because I have Edmonton beating Vegas, when they face Edmonton or Vegas, will their depth be able to handle the superstar, this insane superstar power? We'll see. But for right now, I have Dallas over Seattle because to me, Seattle's just a much deeper, stronger, higher firepower team with a goalie who can get hotter than a hot Grubauer.
They're the compound V of the league.
Thank you. The Dallas Stars.
Got you.
The Dallas Stars are the Seattle Kraken on compound V.
Yes.
Cool. Love the references I don't understand.
The boys is very good. I'd recommend it. It's kind of weird and gross, but it's very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this series is interesting. I mean, with Seattle, you talk about their depth. 15 different players scored in that series against Colorado. They scored first in every single game in all 7 games. And Philip Grubauer, who, look, he was not good in the regular season. He was even worse last season, but he's a guy who has been here before. He has played in the playoffs before, and man, did he turned out some fine performances against the mighty Colorado Avalanche. And while I do think Seattle deserves a lot of credit with what they were able to do against Colorado. The Avalanche, they had a lot of injuries. They obviously lost Kadri in the offseason. They didn't have Landeskog all year. They didn't have Nichushkin in this series for wild reasons, by the way.
We don't
So
need to get into it.
and that's part of the reason why I picked Seattle to upset Colorado. In this series, because while Colorado's very good and they definitely could have won that series, I think Seattle, they had the depth, they had the firepower, and they managed to get the goaltending, and that was the biggest question mark going into that series. In terms of them playing Dallas, it's hard to imagine Seattle will be able to keep up that kind of intensity. I think just like it did in the Colorado series, it's going to come down to how Philip Grubauer performs, because I think Seattle, I think their depth will shine again, but Jake Ottinger, man.
Yeah.
He's the biggest reason Dallas beat Minnesota. There were games in there where Minnesota was the better team.
Let me just say this. I'm in BC. I want Seattle to go to the Cup Finals.
Yeah.
But Dallas.
Yeah, I would say Dallas. I'm going to say Dallas in 5.
I was going to do Dallas in 5, the same reason why I was going to do Toronto in 5, but I don't know.
I'd love to see Seattle push it. I'd love to see Seattle get through even, but
when I'm confident in a team winning, but I'm unconfident in them a little bit, I always go 6. That's like my
fair
rule.
enough. 6 is always like the safe bet, I think.
Yeah.
I'll just say 7. I feel like it's going 7.
Dallas in 7?
Yes.
Fair enough.
First,
So
I was gonna
Dallas.
say Seattle, but just thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
no. Dallas in 7.
In the final other West series, we got Edmonton, Vegas. This is one where I'm so confident. Edmonton in 5. The Edmonton Oilers should beat the
100%.
Vegas Golden Knights in 5 games. I know I seem like a Vegas hater, but
yeah,
Vegas, while they did beat the Winnipeg Jets in 5, they did blow a 4-1 lead. They did blow other leads, or were about to. They didn't necessarily go to overtime in those games. But the Vegas Golden Knights did struggle a little bit with the Winnipeg Jets, and good on Winnipeg. They were a tough out. The Edmonton Oilers just beat the goddamn Los Angeles Kings in 6 games, who had quite a bit of help from the refs.
And the Kings got that lucky goal. Remember that lucky goal with the broken stick?
Exactly.
I've never seen that before.
I've never seen that either.
Especially in those circumstances.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, just the difference in style from Winnipeg to Edmonton, I think is going to be so jarring for Vegas that I just think Edmonton has this. I really do. I think Edmonton in 5. That's really all I have to say about that series. McDavid, Draisaitl, like 56% on the power play, highest power play percentage in a playoff series ever, I believe.
What's nuts about that is LA knew they couldn't afford to take very many penalties, and they didn't take very many penalties. I think it was 15 in 6 games. That's not that bad.
Pretty good, actually.
But they gave up 9 power play goals.
Yeah.
LA's a good defensive team. You Philip Deneau, Drew Doughty.
They were great. They shut down McDavid at 5-on-5 for the most part.
Bouchard had, I think, 10 power play points. Bouchard.
Crazy.
He could be a Norris candidate next year, points alone. The way that Erik Karlsson is points alone. Bouchard can still work on his defensive game a little bit, but he has all the tools to be the next great offensive D-man in the NHL.
The next Tyson Barrie. That's a joke, by the way.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of Edmonton, Vegas, I think at a certain point, and I'm going to push back against your opinion on Vegas just a little bit here. At a certain point, I know when you look at their numbers in the regular season, they just scream like average team. But the way I'm trying to look at it is a team that maybe just knows when to turn it on. Because that's what they did against Winnipeg. After they looked lifeless in game 1 and they blew leads. They sure did. They blew that 4-1 lead, but they still won that game. I think they showed that while maybe they might be a frustrating team to watch at times.
Yeah.
a team that maybe doesn't start on time as much as you'd like them to, but god damn it, they just keep finding a way. They did it all regular season, and they've done it in a round now. I'm not saying that's going to be enough for them to beat Edmonton. I am picking Edmonton in this series. I would say Edmonton in 6, but I do think Vegas can't be underestimated. You have Jack Eichel playing in, I'll get to your point in a second. Jack Eichel playing in his first playoffs. Chandler Stevenson had 8 points in that series against Winnipeg.
Sorry, not to cut you off real quick, but Eichel McDavid in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's an underrated thing.
Yeah.
The
I
make
didn't even
Eichel
think of that. Yeah.
the make Eichel matchup. Sorry, Buffalo. But yeah, I just think Vegas, they have a lot of guys who have been there before. That's not an underrated thing. I know that analytically speaking, every metric tells you Edmonton should win this series decisively. And I'm just saying that we've seen it in so many rounds already that analytics do not decide a series.
No, my only caveat is that Edmonton starts on time every game. Got to give Edmonton that. How many times are they up 2-0 halfway through the first period against the LA Kings, and the LA Kings crawled back just to lose? If Vegas doesn't wake up early in these games, which they've struggled with, they're going to get pummeled. If you give Edmonton a little bit of life, because unlike the Winnipeg Jets, who came back and didn't close it out, the Oilers came back from, I believe, 3 goals down against the Kings and won. The Oilers will take every chance. All they need is a little crack in the window, and then suddenly the door is busted open.
I think I was going to point out in the one game where Edmonton didn't get off to a good start, they still came back and won.
Exactly.
They came back twice. They were down in the third as well.
You know, and that's my thing is the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid, I think, is pissed at how bad he had. I think McDavid's going to be pissed about his series against LA. And McDavid had a great series against LA. I'm not saying he didn't. I think he's going to be pissed at his 5-on-5 play. I think McDavid, as much as he's a demon on the ice, I think he's going to turn into the devil. And I think McDavid's going to take over the series, and that's why I'm picking 5. And look, I love to criticize the Oilers. I've been riding high on the Oilers for quite a while now. And, you know, maybe I should have picked them over Dallas, but I wanted to be different.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to see McDavid go far.
Mm-hmm.
It's what this league needs.
This is McDavid's best opportunity for a Stanley Cup. The 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs is the best opportunity for Connor McDavid to finally get a Stanley Cup. There's not a single Goliath in his way. He's the Goliath now. You could argue the Maple Leafs, and you could argue the Hurricanes, and we'll get to the Hurricanes in a second. Those, I think, are the 2 toughest challenges. Now watch like New Jersey and Dallas be the Stanley Cup final, which I kind of predicted. But my point aside, this is by far Connor McDavid's best chance to finally get a ring. And as long as it doesn't come at the expense of the Maple Leafs, I'd love it.
Agreed.
That's one Canadian team I could get behind.
Exactly. And now the final series we talked about. I think this will be a quick one because I think quickly though, let's touch on the Jacob Trouba hit in Game 7. Jacob Trouba.
Side note, this show is happening pretty much.
It ended. They won 4-0.
Yeah, it ended. Yeah, New Jersey won 4-0.
So New Jersey, Carolina.
Yeah.
But Jacob Trouba should be suspended to start the 2023-2024 NHL season. It should be minimum 3 games. Minimum 3 games. I'd say 4. It's like 2 Stanley Cup playoff games, so 4. Because Jacob Trouba that was an unnecessary hit on Timo Meier in the back half of the 3rd period, I believe. It was kind of like the Scott Niedermayer, not Scott Niedermayer. Was it Scott Niedermayer? No. Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens, Paul Kariya hit where he just smokes him right in the head. No penalty was called, so that's going to take a little bit of influence into the player's safety. Meier was out for a second. It's a brutal hit. And Jacob Trouba should be suspended. You know, he's had a lot of questionable hits early in the season. I'm not sure he's been suspended. I'm not 100% on that. This literally just happened, so I don't have it in front of me. But Jacob Trouba, in my opinion, should be suspended. It's a brutal hit. You don't need that in the game anymore. Will he be suspended? He might get a game. He'll probably get a fine.
If you wonder, I was looking at my phone. I just read Michael Bunting will face a hearing for the Jacob Trouba hit tonight. So,
yeah. I don't know, that was a quick aside, but
yeah. Yeah, it was a really bad hit, and there's no reason. There was no reason for there to not be a penalty on that play. There was no reason for that to not be a 5-minute major. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying it was clean. I do not understand that take. It was a shoulder directly to the head. Man, it
popped.
Yeah, and I really hope Meyer is okay. He did return to the bench, for the end of the game. I don't know if he got on the ice, but yeah, I think we should just talk about this series a little bit.
Timo Meyer had a bad series.
He did, but who cares?
Exactly, they still won, and
yeah,
I think this was a big. Listen, the New Jersey Devils are a fantastic team. They could win the cup this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's a few teams. Whatever, the New Jersey Devils could win the Stanley Cup this year, but this is a choke job from the New York Rangers. You're up 2-0 in the series. The New Jersey Devils have to go to their AHL starter from earlier in the season just to save their playoff lives.
Akira Schmid was an .830 in the NHL last season.
Exactly. And the New York Rangers, you shouldn't have won game 6. Some odd penalties. I'm not going to talk about whether they're fluky or not because it's the playoffs. You have to call stuff eventually.
Yeah.
You're lucky the refs called those penalties or you would have been gone in MSG. And now the New York Rangers had a chance to rectify their wrongs, and they blew it. They blew it last year against Tampa when they were up 2-0. They blew it this year when they were up 2-0 against New Jersey.
2-0?
Like in the series.
I know. I just didn't expect that terminology.
Oh, no. Here in BC, me and all my
Adam
friends
isn't here. We're not talking about the Champions League. Anyway. Love you, Adam. Sorry.
And, you know,
Adam's cool.
I don't know what more you can say other than that they went all in with Tarasenko, Kane, and they still didn't do it. You know?
What an embarrassing performance from New York's stars.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, from what I saw from like opinions of Rangers fans, Tarasenko and Kane were like fine in this series. Tarasenko scored a couple goals.
Kane had moments.
He had a nice goal. He had moments.
Panarin
but like you didn't get those guys to rely on them.
No.
You got Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin. Like those guys, they simply did not show up in this series. They were awful. Legitimately awful. Adam Fox was great.
Shesterkin did his job.
Shesterkin was good enough. Like I remember before Game 7 started, they were showing the goalie stats. Shesterkin had a .930 save percentage in the first 6 games. How do you not win a series with that? Absolutely crazy. And yeah, I think that like you almost wonder if Gerard Gallant's going to be out the door after something like that. Whether he deserves to be or not, because that was just unacceptable. After taking a 2-0 series lead, first 2 games, the Rangers looked like they were going to run the Devils over. It looked like it wasn't going to be even close. But the Devils, you have to give credit to the Devils where they played to their strengths. They were by far the better team at 5-on-5 pretty much the rest of the series. After game 2, Jack Hughes showed up. Dougie Hamilton showed up. And what do you know? Akira Schmid, who was probably their third goalie heading into this season, comes in and unbelievable performances. Posts I think 2 shutouts in the series, a shutout in game 7 at home. That's a great story. And I'm really glad to see New Jersey get through. And I mentioned this off air before, but they had the second longest playoff series drought after the Leafs had won, just behind the Buffalo Sabres, because they hadn't won a series since their cup run in 2012. So I'm happy for Devils fans. I'm happy for that core, those players. I love watching Jack Hughes. It's going to be great. to see him play in the second round. And I guess now we should transition into what will be an interesting matchup between the Hurricanes and
Quickly, just
Devils in the second round.
One thing on the Jacob Trouba hit. The Jacob Trouba hit by textbook is legal, should not be clean. So when I say that Jacob Trouba should be suspended, I know it's not going to happen. He might only get a fine. But that's one of those rule changes that need to happen where, that is a legal, clean hit. But with like any critical thinking, like face value wise, that should not be in the game.
Why did he even make that hit though?
It's Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba's going to finish his checks, and good on him because
it was
he
2-0.
gets away with them.
It was 2-0, 5 minutes into the third. Like you're down 2 and you're playing on the road. If you're at home, maybe I can understand making a hit like that to sort of rile everybody up. I feel like the only thing you're doing is you're giving energy to the other team.
Yeah.
Making a hit like that.
But
yeah, it was crazy. And New Jersey they scored like not that long after that hit.
I just wanted to add that in just because I know it's technically a clean hit. I don't need any comments.
Not.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, but it isn't.
Yeah. Anyway, New Jersey, Carolina. This is the most interesting series. I don't know genuinely what should happen. I think I'm leaning towards it's basically the high-flying offense of New Jersey versus the shutdown defense of Carolina. Carolina peppers shots. A lot of them aren't really high danger. Carolina are analytical darlings for Corsi, the Corsi Canes. But I gotta say, I'm expecting this to go 7. Carolina is notoriously bad on the road in the playoffs the past 2 years. I know they got a win this year in Long Island on the road. I think I'm leaning New Jersey. I'm going to be honest. Because Carolina, they went from playing a very defensive-minded New York Islanders who went 6, could have went 7 because of the overtime game, 2 overtime games, both in which Carolina won on a questionable goal that maybe a penalty should have been called, and then the worst goal I've seen Sorokin give up. And now you're going up against a hot and ready New Jersey Devils team who is on fire. This is, of course, pending on whether Timo Meier's healthy. If Timo Meier's healthy, I think New Jersey takes this. You're without Toivo Teravainen, you're without Andrei Svechnikov. The goaltending's still questionable. I still don't 100% trust Frederik Andersen or Antti Raanta, whoever they go with. Probably Frederik Andersen.
Yeah.
You know, that defense core is so good that you can't count them out. And who knows? Carolina easily could win the cup, right? But I think I'm leaning New Jersey in 7. We saw Carolina losing against New York last year, the New York Rangers last year, in a series they should have won. They just couldn't get a road win. We saw them struggle a little bit against the Islanders. They pretty much just sucked the Islanders into just nothingness. They beat them at their own game. The Carolina Hurricanes can't beat the New Jersey Devils at their game. And the New Jersey Devils just realized, after going down 0-2 in the series, hey, we can actually play our game. We can say, fuck you, we're playing our own game. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that game, it's speed, it's youth. They can outscore you. They have so much skill. They have Andre Palat, noted just unreal playoff performer. He set up one of the goals in Game 7 tonight. As like I do lean towards New Jersey in this series, just given the momentum they have, the way they play. But I think if there is a team in the East who can shut that down, it's Carolina. With that defense. And, you know, I do have questions about the goaltending, but they've gotten through this season without great goaltending because of their defense. Even without Teravainen and Svechnikov, I think it's about time Carolina finally got over the hump. You know, we saw them get to the conference final that one year in 2019 and get swept by the Bruins.
That year was a weird, like...
Yeah, it was weird.
That almost doesn't... It's like the Carolina Hurricanes technically got over the second round hump. But did they really?
I mean...
You know what I mean? Like, technically, yes, but
they did.
They got swept.
Yeah. I think that you're going to have a dressing room in Carolina that is very motivated. We all know how great a coach Rod Brind'Amour is, how great a motivator he is. As much as my brain tells me New Jersey, but my gut tells me Carolina's gonna get to the Final Four because I think they're just gonna will their way there.
That's fair. I'm actually the difference. My brain says Carolina, my gut says New Jersey, so I'm going with my gut.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Carolina in 7.
Fair enough. And look, if I say it's 7, to me it's a coin flip. And
I think it's the biggest coin flip out of all the series.
exactly. And New Jersey just won the biggest coin flip of all the series.
Yeah, for sure.
So they say what you want about being there. New Jersey just went there.
I could see New Jersey winning it. I feel like they got a fire now.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're saying New Jersey in how many games?
In 6, I think.
New Jersey in 6? That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, and that covers our series recaps. Few minor things. Let's come back to hockey because I think we should end on something we all talk about. Quickly, Aaron Rodgers traded to the New York Jets. As a New York Jets fan, I am very happy. The package that the New York Jets gave up for Aaron Rodgers wasn't that bad. They moved back 2 picks in the draft. They give up, I believe 4 or 5 picks, none of them being a first, a second, and a third next year, plus. And the New York Jets, they are in a tough conference. They're in a tough division. They should at least make the wild card next year. That's my expectation. That's a great, great season by their standards. It is the Jets' standards after all. With a pretty bad quarterback in Zach Wilson. Listen, I love Zach Wilson. I thought he was going to be better. I was
Zach
wrong.
Attack. Yeah, he's
right.
Yeah.
I hope maybe Aaron Rodgers makes him better. Who knows, right? But I'm excited to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. New York Jets have been doing some other stuff as well. And I expect the New York Jets, I think, are a dark horse Super Bowl team. By no means are they the favorite. No, by no means are they the top 5 favorites. But I think they could, if this year of sports, listen, hockey and basketball is being weird. Who knows? Maybe football could be weird for next year for the 2024 Super Bowl. I think the New York Jets, have a chance. I'd give them like a 5% chance to win the Super Bowl. Not high,
but it's possible.
But we'll take that as Jets fans. Aaron Rodgers gives us a chance with that great defense. Pretty good. Just pretty good team structure. They just needed a quarterback. They gave up like no roster players or like not any significant ones. And
I mean, hey, Aaron Rodgers has been complaining that he's got no one to throw to. He's got no one helping him out there.
Got Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
You got a great defense to back it up. So I'm excited as a Jets fan. Unfortunately, where I am, the Jets aren't really on TV, so I may buy NFL like League Pass or whatever it is, or like the NFL, the Zone. I might get the Zone. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd probably be cheaper.
Yeah, but I'm excited. Moving on from that, another quick weird transition to the NBA. 2 things. One, my Denver Nuggets are in the second round. They won Game 1 against the Phoenix Suns. It's looking great. Let me quickly check the score. They're down slightly to the Phoenix Suns in the Game 2. The Denver Nuggets finally have a chance to resurrect. No, not resurrect. The Denver Nuggets finally have a chance to make it to the first ever NBA Finals. Do I think it's going to happen? No, because the Phoenix Suns are kind of good. And then, it is what it is. Pretty much, to me, the representative of the Western Conference in the NBA will either be Denver or Phoenix. I don't trust Golden State. I love LeBron. Meh, right? Like, the Lakers are very streaky. They're on fire right now. So, LeBron could win his 5th chip. I'd love to see it. I love LeBron. But Denver Nuggets finally have a chance. I'm excited for that. And we'll just have to see. I'm not really... That was a little side tangent. I just love Denver. I'm excited to see them do well. Now, the New York Knicks, my goodness, did they waste an opportunity in Game 1. Jimmy Butler goes down with a sprained ankle, a brutal sprained ankle. 5 minutes left in the third quarter. You're within 8 points, maybe closer. RJ Barrett has an opportunity to just attack Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler literally can't move. He's posted up in the corner. Jimmy Butler isn't a great 3-point shooter either. He's literally just a catch and shoot in the corner on the offense. On defense, he's walking side to side. Listen, every one of us have a better lateral than Jimmy Butler at that point.
I don't know about that.
Maybe.
Well, pretty close. Pretty close. With him on his hobbled ankle.
Fair.
You have a chance to just rush him as RJ Barrett, as Julius, or not as RJ Barrett, or as I can't think of who is their point guard. Why can't I think of his name? His name's slipping me. Regardless, RJ Barrett needed to attack Butler, who's injured on an ankle from a foul from Josh Hart, and he just 3 straight plays, a lot of late quarter turnovers, a needless offensive foul on a bad screen. And then when he finally has Butler, who Butler's wanting to guard RJ Barrett. Butler is amazing. I love Jimmy Butler. He's my second favorite player in the league behind Jokic. And then the Knicks, RJ Barrett calls for a switch that puts the injured player who literally can't move off of him and gets guarded and gets stripped by Kyle Lowry. And it's like, what are you doing? Kyle Lowry had a fantastic game, by the way. One of his best games.
Let's go, Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like you need to attack. And unfortunately, RJ Barrett, he's going through a lot of growing pains. He looks like the Maple Mamba in one game, and the other game, he looks like Rusty Luol Deng at the end of his career, right? Like, it's just, there's no excuse. The Knicks should have won game 1 the second Jimmy Butler went down. That was a perfect chance to crawl back and win. And why they were running it through RJ Barrett constantly after turnover after turnover after turnover after not attacking Jimmy Butler continuously, I don't know. And, if Jimmy Butler is actually, severely injured, the Heat probably lose in 5, maybe 6. But game 1 was a wasted opportunity. That's all I got to say. And finally, I guess there's 2 things. Did you see the Hellebuck stuff, or should we just go to the Arizona thing and call it a night?
I've not seen anything about Hellebuck. No, I've seen a lot of Jet stuff, but I haven't seen Hellebuck.
Okay, I'll quickly bring it up, then let's finish on Arizona, unless anybody else has anything that they want to add.
Yeah,
Talk to us.
We can skip the Blue Jays today.
Is there anything important with the Blue Jays, or is it pretty much just...
I mean,
I'll do like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They got off to their best. They've gotten off to their best start in franchise history.
Oh yeah.
Through like 26, 27 games. They came up a stretch where I think they'd won 7 of 8. They had a 5-1 homestand. However, they've lost 2 in a row now. They lost yesterday to Seattle pretty badly. They had a 4-run lead, which they blew in the last few innings. And then they lost to Boston tonight. But overall, I would say the Blue Jays are doing very well. It's kind of crazy. They've gotten off to their best start in franchise history, and they're 3rd in the East. That's how stupid this division is. And I think the rebalance schedule has a lot to do with that. But yeah, it's been incredible to see what Matt Chapman and Bo Bichette have done. The starts that they've gotten to. Matt Chapman is quite literally the best hitter in the world right now.
He's on fire right now.
That's not even a stretch to say. He, like, this new approach he has, taking the ball the other way a lot, but you'll still see him turn on an inside fastball. It's been wonderful to watch. And Bo Bichette, by the way, tonight had his second 5-hit game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the stats, but I don't know how many players have done that in history. Like, it can't be very many. 5-hit games happen like a handful of times every season. So crazy performance from him. I'm really happy with what I've seen from the Blue Jays. They're 18-11. Great rotation. Their bullpen has had a couple rough games, but overall has been great. And their lineup is about as balanced as it's been since 2015, the year they last won the East. So really good signs. I'm really excited about them. I hope that they can continue this hot stretch and hopefully catch up to the Tampa Bay Rays.
Cool. Want to do a quick how you guys doing in the fantasy? How you feeling?
Oh, yeah, the fantasy.
I just won my first game, so I'm 1-2.
Nice.
And I went against Jamie. I went against Jamie, who's 2-0. So I don't know. I'm really just letting it sit, and I'll be honest. As long as I got my 1 win, I'm aiming for like 4 on the season, and I'm happy. There's no punishment. We didn't decide on a punishment, so
yeah,
I'll update it and stuff. Like, I'm not leaving it for dead, but I'm not expecting to do great.
Sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in 2 fantasy leagues. In one, I'm doing really well. In this one, I'm not doing very well. Although it's only been 3 games on 1 and 2. I'll be fine.
All right.
Hellebuck. He is 1 year away from UFA status, and he has said, I don't want to be in a rebuild. These 5 playoffs games were the most fun I've had all year. It's like a high I want to chase. The Winnipeg Jets are just stuck in mediocrity. Mediocrity is the worst place to be in the NHL. I say that almost every show.
Anywhere.
And exactly. And the Connor Hellebuck, I think, gets traded this offseason.
You can't rebuild with a goalie like that.
You can't rebuild with a goalie like that. The coach hates the players. Rick Bowness hates his team.
Oh my God. And I think, I don't want to speak for all his players, but Blake Wheeler definitely doesn't like him. I think
Nope.
that's clear.
And the worst thing about the Winnipeg Jets is that Kevin Cheveldayoff is still the general manager. Look, I'm sure Kevin Cheveldayoff's a great person. He's had his moments as general manager. It's stale. He's been there for a decade plus now, I believe.
Mhm.
And it's just, he's willing to commit to these players who have done nothing. They're great players. Shifley, Wheeler, Connor, actually exclude Connor from this, but Shifley, Wheeler, etc., etc. The guys have done nothing of note aside from make it to the Western Conference Finals once.
Mhm.
They need to blow it up, and I think it starts with Hellebuck. They hate Nikolai Ehlers. I don't know why. He's a great player.
Yeah, it's insane.
You can get a great package for Connor Hellebuck. I'm sure you can send him to LA and get a boatload of stuff. You might be able to get back a Quentin Byfield for Connor Hellebuck, and Quentin Byfield's fantastic. You know, you could send him to the Leafs. I don't know what the Leafs would give up, but I'm sure the Leafs would love Connor Hellebuck. You could send him to Ottawa. Ottawa has a lot to give up. I know they love trading their first round picks. Maybe get the Brincat back. The Brincat's not loving Ottawa. But if he's not loving Ottawa, I doubt he'll love Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Point being said, there are places to trade Connor Hellebuck. Buffalo. Buffalo would be fantastic.
I think Buffalo's an underrated destination there.
Exactly. I think Connor Hellebuck needs to be traded by the Winnipeg Jets, probably to LA or to Buffalo. But unfortunately for the Winnipeg Jets, Kevin Cheveldayoff loves his mediocre teams, worst place to be in hockey, and I don't see the Winnipeg Jets improving. I don't really see them, having negative ramifications point-wise, playoff projection-wise for the following season. But my goodness, they need to blow it up. Rick Bowness hates his players. Players hate Rick Bowness. They need to do something, and Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to do nothing. And I think that's the problem with the Winnipeg Jets is the GM. He's there. Owners love him. He's staying. He's staying for next year. And, Connor Hellebuck doesn't want to be in a rebuild. Fair enough. Get him out. Get him out. For his sake, get him out.
I think when I look at the Jets, you say the biggest problem is the GM. And I'm not going to say the GM isn't a big problem, but for me, I think the big problem is just the core that has been there through all of this. Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler. Look, it's no secret the issues that locker room has. It's what drove Dustin Byfuglien away with injuries as well. It's probably what drove a guy like Jake Trouba away. It's what drove Patrick Laine away. It's what drove Evander Kane away. And Kane has his own issues, I know.
It seems to be driving Ehlers away.
Ehlers, yeah.
Ehlers,
yeah. And I think you just look at this and you look at how it's been the last few years, and you look at just how unmotivated they were in an elimination game against Vegas, where they played like chicken shit, like honestly. And I don't use that term very often. I look at them and I say, okay, you have two stars, I think, in Kyle Connor and Josh Morrissey. I think you try your best to retain both those guys. Everyone else can go.
Dubois is leaving,
as far as I'm
whether
concerned.
you like it or
Dubois
not.
Gone. I think no matter what, he's gone.
Try to get a second from Montreal if you can.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing about Dubois, I know this is a whole different conversation, but the weird thing about Dubois is he doesn't really have any rights here.
But
I wonder if Montreal signs him to an offer sheet and Winnipeg just takes the draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Montreal would do that, but I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dubois is as good as gone, probably.
Yeah.
You try to get as many assets as you can for him. Wheeler is old and he makes a lot of money. That's going to be tough. Scheifele, Shifley is
You can get rid of
probably
Shifley.
yeah, he's probably a little past his peak, and he simply does not play defense ever.
But he's still tradable.
He's valuable. He's tradable. He's a really good player. I think Kyle O'Connor and Josh Morrissey are too good for you to just let go of, and I think they're important pieces that you can build around.
They're
in
going to
a
undersell
rebuild.
on Nikolai Ehlers.
Yeah, and with the Ehlers situation and the fact that Rick Bowness is staying as head coach, which I think is the right move.
I agree.
I think he has the right attitude for that locker room, which obviously not in the greatest state. But yeah, it's gonna be a fascinating offseason for Winnipeg. And I think the worst case scenario for them is that they do nothing.
I agree. And that's the reason why I blame the GM more than the players. Listen, the locker room's toxic. We know that.
Mhm.
Everyone knows that. Got to be delusional not to know that.
Yeah. It's been a story for years.
But there's a man, Kevin Cheveldayoff, who could have changed that 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago when Trouba was out. You didn't. You're not going to change it after 2018, obviously.
No.
But rather than removing the root, he removed the branches. He got rid of Line, Trouba, Bufflin with injuries and everything. He had to go. Fair enough. Myers. Listen, I love ripping on Myers. He walked as a free agent. His contract is a little rich. Winnipeg couldn't afford it, but still, you still saw more players walk than quality came in. And that's why I blame the GM, because he had a chance to fix this. Why on God's green earth, I'm not religious, but why on God's green earth would you trade a Patrick Laine when you can get rid of, maybe not get rid of, but retain the guy who was looking like he was going to be the next Ovechkin?
He didn't want to be there.
He didn't want to be there. But the problem is you bring in a guy who also didn't want to be there in Dubois.
It was kind of backwards a little bit. I think really that was just...
I just think you could have done better on the Line return in getting a player that maybe actually gave a damn about playing in the Winnipeg area.
To play devil's advocate on that trade, I think considering how good Dubois is, Winnipeg did better on that trade than I even expected them to be honest.
I was surprised they included Roslovic. Roslovic's a good little third line center.
Almost forgot about Roslovic. Yeah.
Roslovic loves Columbus.
But yeah, I mean, Winnipeg, like I said, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the offseason for them.
And finally, are we finally seeing the end of the Arizona Coyotes? The Tempe Arena deal is mid-May. It's mid-May. Owners are worried. The team's worried. There's a lot of political turmoil, drama going on. I don't know the ins and outs of Arizona's city council laws, bylaws, legislations. Who cares? That's not what we're here for. The Arizona Coyotes, from Frank Saravalli, could be no longer the Arizona Coyotes by the end of the summer. And they're worried because if this Tempe deal falls through, they're either in a mullet arena for like 5 years, 6 years, or they pull the plug. And whether Bettman likes it or not, he doesn't want to pull the plug.
No way.
This would force his hand. I truly believe that, as Frank Saravalli believes that. And you got to think, where are they going to go? How is this going to work? They're going to Houston. They're going to be the Houston space pun, whatever space terminology you can fit in. They're going to be the Houston,
of course. Yeah.
Right? Listen,
look, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you'll go ahead.
Okay. Look, if there are any Arizona Coyotes fans listening, I apologize for this.
You deserve better.
If any of you still exist.
I am desperately hoping for them to just be gone.
I love the Arizona jerseys. I wish Arizona was successful. I think they go back there in the next 30 years.
The
Coyotes
they might be
going back to Atlanta, but just it's not going to work with this ownership. It's not going to work with these arena deals. You got to get an arena in Phoenix. You got to be the Phoenix Coyotes, not the Arizona Coyotes.
The Coyotes have just been This has been an embarrassing saga for not just the Coyotes, just the NHL in general. Having a team like this.
And who knows, maybe, I believe it's on May 17th. Maybe on May 17th, everything works out. And they're in Arizona. They have a beautiful arena in Tempe, and in 6 years, we're all laughing. Hey, remember that time when? For those, if Arizona does move, for those advocating for Quebec City, they're not going to Quebec.
No,
It's Houston.
Gary's not going to do
Quebec
that.
is not getting a team anytime soon. They'll go to Hamilton before they go to Quebec. I genuinely believe that. And
Yeah.
it's not because I don't want a team in Quebec. I love a team in Quebec. I really do. I think they deserve a team. They should get a team. They should get a team over every other city in North America, aside from maybe Houston. I think Houston would be a good market.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, Mexico City also should get a team, in my opinion. but
Atlanta
that's
would
like-
probably get another team.
Atlanta will get another team before Quebec
Mhm.
City.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they simply just don't want to go to a Canadian market right now. They don't want to go to Quebec City, which is a super small Canadian market, despite having the arena, the Videotron Center. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous arena.
Gary does
And-
not like those small Canadian markets.
He doesn't. And you know what? Winnipeg's great. Ottawa should be great once they get their new arena deal, but it's risky, man. And Arizona's going to Houston, not Quebec. Florida's not moving to Quebec anytime soon. The expansion team is going to Atlanta in the East, not Quebec. The Quebec Nordiques and all of their redesigned jersey before moving to Colorado Glory with little wolf. It's just never going to happen. I'm sorry.
I hope you're wrong, but you're
I do as
probably
well.
not.
I hope I'm
Mhm.
wrong, but as long as Gary Bettman is the general, as long as Gary Bettman is the commissioner of the NHL, and I don't see him leaving in the foreseeable future, no team will be in Quebec. We're gonna get another Atlanta, which I think could work, and Arizona will be moving to Houston, assuming this Tempe deal falls through mid-May. Which, listen, if the owners are reportedly worried about it, if the city's reportedly worried about it, Tempe does not want Arizona there or something. I don't know who. No, Phoenix doesn't want Tempe getting the deal, I believe.
Hmm.
And it falls through, and Phoenix probably has more authority in the area than Tempe. Hockey in the desert is soon going to be hockey in Houston.
Yeah.
That's all I really gotta say. Cool. Well, if everyone else is good, we've been going for quite a long time. My goodness,
Lengthy show, probably our longest
Yeah.
one.
because we can actually
Yeah.
record more than 40 minutes at once.
Yeah.
Alex, you need to be here more often.
I'll try.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Without Warning. When we come back, round 2 will be underway. I'm excited to see how it's going to go. Probably after game 1 or 2. We'll see. We
I
have our predictions.
I think
And-
it'll be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a good round. It's going to be a good round. All right. Been Alex
Leafs,
Wiley with-
Yeah. Leafs Panthers game 1 tomorrow night. I'm so excited. Excited to
really
actually
excited.
enjoy the playoffs
Yeah.
for once.
Now I can actually watch. Like that Saturday game, I didn't even watch it. I was
No.
scared.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. All right. Well, this has been Alex Walthy from Not Toronto. Ryan McMahon. Alex Antoniadis. Without Warning. See you next time.
Bye-bye.